Hi there, everybody. My name is Mimi, and I am just starting out this channel. Very first video that I'm doing today. And basically, what I want to do with this channel is um, be super vulnerable with my own life, and then kind of sit there with you guys as I go through my own personal growth, maybe help you guys with your own personal growth, deal with my traumas that I've been through. I've done a lot of work on myself through a lot of years, and I continue to do the work. And I thought it would be just kind of helpful to have somebody who's going through it. I'm not 100% better or anything like that, but I've done a lot of work, and having somebody to kind of like listen to, maybe eventually do lives and speak to each other, and kind of like share the traumas, because I know there's a lot of people in this world who feel super alone. They're like, I'm just doing this all on my own. Nobody else has gone through this. And I think the more of us that come out here and speak about things and really talk about, hey, like I've been through this as well, and this is what I did to get through it. This is what I did during the time and then after, and then have continued to use that experience to grow and just develop and persevere through all of all of the things that life throws us. So yeah, that's basically what I want to do with this channel, and yeah, just kind of get the word out there. So welcome everybody, and thank you for listening to me talk. And yeah, I'm just super excited about this. I think today what I want to do is, I mean, aside from the little bit of an introduction, is just kind of talk to you guys, like a very quick overview, of kind of like where my life started, and then where I am at now with my life, and kind of like some of the biggest key things that have happened in life to me, and then some of the ways that I've overcome them, and then kind of what I'm going through right now as well. So let's get started. So one of the, I guess, to start from the very beginning, um, I I am I was born to an American mother who moved to Iran. My mom fell in love with Islam, and in America, she was born and raised Christian and all of that. Had a lot of struggles with feeling like that was the right religion for her, and she ended up finding Islam in her early 20s, and ended up marrying an Iranian guy who she was kind of like set up with through friends. They're like, oh, this guy's so great, blah, blah, blah. So she moved to Iran, and that's where I was actually born. My dad is Iranian, and then my mom is American. And yeah, it ended up just being super. He was just a super abusive person. Like, it's nothing against Iranian people at all. And it's just that there's some people in this world that are very abusive. And his mother was very narcissistic. She was the problem. She created a horrible human being. And so we ended up um, going through a lot of trauma growing up. And we were also in the middle of the Iraq-Iran war. So my dad was a journalist for Iran, and so he ended up going to wherever the war zones were, and so we moved a lot. And when I was born, actually, there was bombs falling around the hospital that I was born at. My mom spent years not knowing if she was going to be exploded, because she was right there in the war zone. So she would constantly have all these little young kids that should be like huddling under a table with, hoping that the bomb would not fall on the apartment that she was at. Yeah, so she had a lot of that kind of trauma. I mean, she had her own childhood trauma as well, so that all comes through and everything. But yeah, then there was the trauma of that time during her younger years, where she has a bunch of little kids, which is already such a huge struggle to be dealing with anyways. And then having war like that, where it's just so unpredictable. And, despite the fact that she loved being in Iran and she loved the culture and she loved Islam and all of that, it was incredibly, incredibly traumatic. And that's what I was born into. Like, literally bombs falling around the hospital. I was born in a city called Urumia, which is right on the Turkey-Iraq border. And yeah, that's where I started. And then slowly but surely, my dad just started becoming more and more abusive throughout the years. I was actually super hated when I was growing up. My grandma just absolutely despised me. My mom had a single boy before she married my dad. She was married before that, and she had my oldest brother, and then she had my brother with my dad, my other brother, my second oldest brother, and then I was born. And right before I was born, my dad's sister had a child as well, another boy, and my grandma, being the piece of work that she is, she just couldn't love more than one child at a time. She was like, "Oh, my daughter's child is perfect, blah blah blah," and she loved um, my dad's first son, my second oldest brother, a lot as well. And then I was born, and she was like, "Oh, this is a piece of shit." She already started saying that before I was even born, and so my mom and dad named me after her, hoping that that would help her feel more connected to me or whatever. She was just not happy about me existing, and so from the day I was born, from before I was born, I just had this intense hatred towards me. Like, I just the worst thing that ever was. So yeah, my grandma continued that throughout the years. We ended up living with her in her basement with my grandpa. My grandpa was a really good man. They didn't even share bedrooms. He was a good man. She was a piece of shit, and they just stayed married. I don't know why. But yeah, she absolutely hated me. She fed me moldy food, then called me a fat ass. And yeah, there was a point in my life when I was around 4 or 5, something like that, where I would literally scream anytime a woman came close to me because of how badly my grandma treated me. I she just like she literally hated me. I can't even explain to you like the amount of hate that woman has for me and had for me when I was such a young child. But yeah, I ended up like dealing with here's my beautiful cat Clifford. Um he's come to say hello. Um I I ended up with a lot of trauma around women. I spent most of my early life not trusting women at all. I still struggle with it to this day. This happening right now. um, I Yeah, I struggled with huge amounts of trust with women. Like I said, I would scream every time I saw a woman. My aunt, my American aunt, she married my mother's brother, and so when we moved to America, back to America, my aunt ended up working with me a lot to try to rebuild trust, and so I was able to kind of trust women again, but barely. And this is a good intermission for all the crazy stuff. Um, but yeah, so after years of abuse, I can go into it another time, go really deep into that story. We ended up moving to America. My dad ended up getting his green card and coming to America. He wanted to move back to America. I mean, he wanted to move to America. My mom wanted to stay in Iran. But we ended up moving to America when I was 6 and staying here. There was periods where we like went back and forth, but he ended up coming here probably around my 7th birthday. And my mom had been pregnant with my baby brother at the time. So it was my oldest brother. That's not my dad's biological son. My second brother, me. I have a sister that's about 2 years younger than me, and then about 4 years or so younger than me is 6 years younger than me is my baby brother, and he was born while my dad was still in Iran, trying to make the transition to come here to America, and yeah, my dad hated him. So he was just like, by the time he came to America, my baby brother was going through the oh stranger danger kind of phase of being child, a little baby, an infant. And so it made my dad really mad. Plus, my dad has abusive tendencies anyways. He was super abusive towards me, would push me away from him. He hated me probably as much as his mother hated me, maybe a little bit less, but he would never hug me. He would never tell me he loved me. He literally would push me away if I tried to come and hug him. I tried to sit in his lap and he'd shove me off of him. um yeah, I was just constantly compared to the other grandchildren. I was i was the child that was the most hated until my baby brother came along, and then my dad hated him even more than he hated me. And there was so much abuse, so many beatings, locked in garages. I'm gonna have to go through that in a different story as well. There's literally so much that I could talk about my childhood, but it was a dark time, and I remember being frightened literally all the time, and I ended up being super depressed and wanting to die, from the time that I was about 5 or 6 years old. I have a lot of memories from like 3 years and up. I can remember things from that young of an age. Um, but yeah, it was it was like this dark shadow sitting on the house, like throughout the house, whenever, like the whole childhood growing up. There was just a darkness. I don't know if that house really was that dark, but every time I have any kind of memory, any kind of like flashback to that time, it literally feels like this dark evil sitting in the room with me wherever I was at in that house. And I can go into a lot more stories about things like jinn. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but basically, from an Islamic standpoint, I don't know how other people necessarily see them, but um, they are they are just like another creation of God, and they live in a parallel universe as us. And some people are able to interact with them more than others, and have whatever view you want on supernatural things or whatever. I can 100% attest that I have very much experienced them my entire life, and I am very well aware of their presence. I can feel them in houses, and I can see them. And yeah, think what you want, but this is my reality, and this is something that a lot of other people have actually talked about as well. I think it's something that's kind of made to look like, oh, you're just crazy, but it's something very, very real. And the types of jinn that he would attract to the house, because of what a horrible person he is, and his mother as well, because her house was covered in them as well, um, were very, very dark, like that. Just, you could feel the evil in the house with them, and then with my father. And yeah, we went through years and years of being frightened when he would come home from work, unsure of what his mood was going to be. He was incredibly abusive to my mother. And yeah, we just all kind of really, really had a rough time. And then there was a point where my mom asked for a divorce, and that became a whole other thing as well. I can go into more stories about that as well. But basically, he ended up threatening to kill us, and the judge and my mother, if we tried to leave him. And then he went through a whole honeymoon phase trying to convince her to stay while being super abusive. Anyways, back and forth, the normal horrible abuse type of stuff. And yeah, so we ended up actually, my mom ended up like getting like a friend group in Southern California, that was very largely Islamic. And so she ended up having a support group, essentially, who was like, hey, this is wrong, this is not what is supposed to be happening to you. And these people, a bunch of Muslims, worked together to help her escape him, because there was no way that we could figure out how to escape financially. She hadn't worked in years because she was a stay-at-home mom, taking care of us, homeschooling us, taking care of the household. Dinner had to be on the table exactly whenever my dad happened to decide to show up from work. And yeah, so Somebody came up, helped us escape my dad. It was a whole scary situation. He was at work and we just kind of up and left. Um, and then we spent a lot of years kind of on the run while she was dealing with the court systems. And he tried to convince everybody she was part of a cult and how he was like, oh, I'm not religious at all. It's just all her. She's a crazy psychopath. And she ended up losing custody of us at one point because he paid off lawyers to not send the paperwork necessary for court dates. We had unsupervised visitations with him where he would threaten to kill us and talk about my mom really badly about her, and just really, just try to like really fuck with our heads essentially. Like he was just still manipulating us, and he was still just super abusing us even after we had left, and we would drive from Southern California to Northern California, doing this basically every weekend. He showed up sometimes, he didn't show up sometimes. He'd leave us in the car while he went shoes shopping or clothes shopping. Didn't bother giving us money. We had been really poor. I grew up dirt poor. I mean, like, we would go to the thrift stores when we were with my dad, go to the thrift store and have to buy things on the clearance rack. So if it was like if it was more than 25 cents, we couldn't afford it. Because he super financially abused my mom as well. Just made sure that he had money to do whatever he wanted. Barely made sure the bills were paid, barely made sure the rent was paid, and barely gave her any money for food and clothing and things like that for us. And punished her one time by taking her car away because somebody else hit her. Hit her car when she was driving. So then when we left my dad, he wasn't paying child support. He wasn't helping financially at all. He was just trying to just screw my mom over any way possible because how dare she have left him, you know? And so, yeah, there was a lot of years where we were just basically running. He would get our address from the lawyers, and then he would stalk us, poke holes in our tires with screwdrivers. We would see him driving by the house. It was terrifying, you know. We had heard him say when my mom was asking for the divorce, we were nosy little kids, and we were all ears pressed against the door, and we heard him say that he was going to kill all of us. So then to spend years after that, seeing him stalk us and being left to have unsupervised visitations with him was incredibly just like so traumatic. How do you explain something like that? Hey, yeah, I wasn't sure if I was gonna die for years and years and years, after years and years of abuse. And so yeah, then we ended up moving to Michigan, and there's a whole lot of stories on there as well. My mom, no hate towards any religion. Okay, I respect Christianity, I respect Judaism, I respect Islam, I respect Buddhism, and so no hate. Anytime I'm explaining anything, there's just certain things that are going to help understand certain things of stories. But my mom, you know, she had converted to Islam, and she really held the religion, and certain things I think are misconstrued or outdated. But one of the things was, you know, getting married young and being a virgin, blah blah blah. So there was a lot of times where the Muslim men in the community would come up to my mom and be like, oh, I want to marry your daughter. And I was like 13, 14 years old, and like I almost got married to like a 27-year-old guy when I was 14 or 15 years old. And he was really controlling as well. I remember one time my sister and I were like giggling together when he was visiting the house, and he's like, you do not giggle like that in my presence. You control yourself. That is unbecoming. And then I was chubby, as I am now, but I was chubby at the time as well. And he bought me a treadmill and told me I had to lose weight because I was fat. And then one time he pretended to be on the phone with his parents, who only spoke Arabic, and then he like tried to hand me the phone, and I don't fucking speak Arabic. And then when I was like, oh no, I don't want to talk to them right now, I don't even know these people, I've never met them, I'm weird on the phone. I was super autistic at the time. I couldn't even make eye contact with people, let alone sit on a phone and talk to some strangers in Arabic that I can't understand, that I don't speak. And so then he got really mad and pulled me aside and told me how I was never allowed to tell him no, especially in front of people, and how I always say yes to him. And I finally told my mom, I was like, listen, I know you want me to get married to some good Islamic man or something, but this is not happening for me. I cannot do this. And I kind of told her some of the stuff. Oh, and he had we had done like what's called a temporary marriage. I don't want to necessarily have to explain it super much, but it's like it's like a pre-marriage marriage where like you can kind of get to know the person, kind of like dating. So he's 27 and I'm 14, 15 years old, 14 I believe. Pretty sure I was 14. And it was supposed to be like no sexual contact just so that I can get to know him, blah blah blah, but he pushed all those boundaries. He would stick my hand in his pants, he would pull up my shirt, suck on my breasts, things like that. So I was definitely super molested at that age. There was no penetration or anything, but does that make it better? No. um, so, anyways, I finally ended things with him and was on the online world. Ended up with a different, younger guy who was 18 and I was still 14. Uh, but basically, it was just a lot of me getting into one abusive relationship after another. I would attempt a relationship, find out it was abusive, leave it. Ended up with the father of my oldest son. um, I was 17 years old and he found my sister who was 15 online, and we were like in chat rooms or whatever, and basically I was like, why are you talking to a 15-year-old, because he was 27 or 28 at the time, and he was like, oh, she just seemed really cool, blah blah blah. And I was like, well, if you want to speak to my sister, you're going to speak to me as well. And then he started, I'm like, oh, I'm trying to protect my sister. Instead I get screwed. Then he started like manipulating me and basically telling me, oh, we're meant to be together. And so, mind you, I have a lot of trauma. I barely even want to be alive. I have zero self-worth. I have done no work on myself at all. And I'm just like still this like, oh yeah, I'm stupid and dumb and super naive about everything. 17-year-old, and have not a lot of life experience because I was homeschooled. I started going to a private Islamic school at that point, but um and a little bit of a high school as well that was mostly all Muslims too, in Michigan. But yeah, I didn't really have a whole lot of experience, and I very stupidly like just trusted whatever he said to me, and also like just the super manipulation where he was just like, nobody's gonna love you like how I love you. I didn't even like this guy. I didn't think he was attractive. I didn't want to be with him, but he kept pushing and pushing and pushing until I was like, maybe I guess I'll give him a chance, because my big thing that I've had to like super overcome in life is like, oh, I guess I'll give this person a chance because they like me and I'm not worth anything. So I mean, like, who else is gonna like me? Obviously nobody that I want to be with. It's just gonna be people who come to me and I'm just gonna have to pick from that. Although I was being hit on all the time. I don't know what was going through my head, but yeah, so I ended up he ended up showing up at my house and being like, well, if you don't come outside and hang out with me and my friend, then you and your sister both need to come outside and do this. And then I'm going to go to your mom and tell her all the stuff that you've been doing, because I was like not being a good little Muslim girl. I had pictures without my hijab on or whatever. And I was like so frightened, like, oh my God, I don't want my mom to think bad of me. So let me go out and meet this guy. And I told my sister, I was like, why'd you give him our address? And she's like, what do you mean I didn't give him our address? And I was like, I didn't give him our address. To this day, I have no idea how this guy found my address, came over to my house, and tried to blackmail me into going and hanging out. So my sister and I went. We drove an hour away to his house, and he ended up giving me alcohol, and like a lot of it I hadn't drank before, and pressured me into it, and ended up having sex with me that night. I was 18 by that point, and he was like 27. So I just turned 18, and then his friends were hitting on my sister who was 15, 16 years old. And yeah, like they're just continuously hitting on her. And oh, jailbait, blah blah blah. And you know, I wish I knew the things that I do now, but yeah, I remember like the next day I was like freaked out about having gotten pregnant because I was very drunk. I was a stupid, barely 18-year-old, and I had gone through so much stuff, and I just stupidly did this and ended up having sex with this much older guy who I didn't want anything to do with. And so then he used that. Oh, I remember bringing up, like, hey, I think I'm going to get pregnant or whatever. And he's like, oh, no, don't worry. I'm sterile. I was with this ex of mine for so many years and I could never have a kid with her. I got kicked in the balls when I was such and such age. So I believed him. Anyways, 3.5 weeks later, guess what? I'm pregnant. And I think I found out 3.5, maybe it was 6.5 weeks. Anyways, from the point where I initially went to his house to then he started to push to be in my life and like, oh, we belong together, all this kind of kept up that story. I ended up having my son, ended up doing like an Islamic marriage with this guy, trying to convince myself and my mother, oh yeah, I want to be with him. Not really. And he was super abusive, so abusive towards me, so controlling, porn addict, just continuously sitting. My mom gave up her room so that I could have it with the baby, and he was just sitting outside in the garage jerking off to porn all the time. Every computer in the house was covered in porn because he would just go save files of porn all over the house. And then, yeah, just like constantly trying to use Islam and be like, you have to be subservient. And I was like, that's not how it works. Like, I don't care what westernized version of Islam you have. That is not the reality of Islam. You can't do this to me. And every time I would push back, he would just go and like tell my mom how I was so abusive and so mean to him. And the day after I got out of the hospital from giving birth to our son, regular vaginal birth, I was stitched up and I was told I'm not allowed to have sex, blah, 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 right? Even C-sections, you're not allowed to have sex. But I had gotten torn from my vagina to my asshole, and they had to stitch me up, and it was really, really freaking painful. And he was like, that night that I got home, he's like, well, I haven't had sex in like a day, so you get down here and give me a blowjob right now. And I was like, I I can barely move right now, and I have a newborn. I just gave birth. What are you talking about? He's like, that is your duty as a wife to do that. And so I ended up doing that. I was crying the entire time. He couldn't care less. So I basically was with him for 2 years. And it was very abusive. It was a very abusive situation. And I finally built up the courage to leave. And I kicked him out of the house, and then he threatened to take my oldest son away from me, and so then that was a whole thing as well. I can go way deeper into these stories. You guys, let me know, like, if you want to hear way more detail about these stories, and I really want to hear like who else has had these kind of issues as well, and if you guys want to reach out and talk to me, because I really like. I'm telling you this story right now, like, hey, this has happened to me. Zero emotion about it because I've done the work to not feel like I'm connected to that anymore. It's just a story. It's just, hey, this is what happened in my past. But I've done the work. I'm not sad about it. I'm not really sad that like, hey, it happened to me necessarily, because honestly, I wouldn't be who I am today. So if you guys want to talk to me about it, and get any kind of insight, very specific things, let me know. Just drop comments, private message me, whatever you need to do. I would love to talk to people. I love helping people overcome stuff that they're going through that's similar to the things that I've had to go through in my life. And yeah, so please reach out to me, comment, tell me your feedback. Tell me if you want me to don't, if you feel too, like it's too vulnerable to reach out or comment, just tell me, hey, I'd love to hear more in depth about this, or hey, I'd love to hear how you overcame this, or anything like that. Okay. But anyway, so I ended up leaving him, ended up, a lot more drama. Now I'm a single mother trying to make it in this world. My mom's not really wanting to help anymore at this point. She was helping, but then she really didn't want to. Financially, we were struggling. My sister and I ended up moving into an apartment together, and I had no car, dragging a very young kid around. on buses and trying to make it to work and school. I was going to school to become a veterinary technician, and I was working full time as well, first at Goodwill and then animal hospitals. Um, just trying to do that on my own, and my oldest son ended up with some babysitters who were very abusive to him, and I ended up having to pull him out of these situations, and so he's got some issues from that as well, which is just really unfortunate. Like, nothing more in my life would I have loved than to be able to be a stay-at-home mom, take care of my children, and not put them in the hands of other people who could be abusive. There's just so many people in this world that are not cool, and I think that I attracted a lot of them as well because of where um, I was in my life. I feel like there was a lot of years where everyone around me was very, very toxic. Um, but anyways, so I ended up still very naive about a lot of stuff in the world, and still in a place with zero self-worth whatsoever. And so when the upstairs apartment guy started flirting with me and trying to hang out, I fell for his crap too, and he ended up being a meth addict with an alcohol problem, and I ended up pregnant with my twins with him, and then I found out he was a meth addict. And I mean, I knew there was issues. There was like a lot of trauma bonding happening. But yeah, then I figured out he was addicted to meth, and then it was like this whole like, I'm gonna help you get clean, blah blah blah, which was never gonna happen. To this day, I'm pretty sure he still does meth. I don't know if he's doing different drugs, but doesn't have his shit together. And it's 17 years, 18 years now. So since all that happened. But yeah, so I ended up going through a lot of abuse with him as well. Just like, he was constantly disappearing. I never knew where he was. I never knew if he was going to be alive. He was getting in trouble with people with guns, showing up at drug dealers' houses, owing drug dealers, like so much stuff. And he was just incredibly abusive towards me, not helpful with the kids at all. Now I have a 4-year-old, and then I have twins. And then 6 months later, there was so I then the reason why I ended up getting pregnant with twins is because I hadn't been on birth control, and he was using condoms but poking holes in them apparently. And then after the twins were born, I tried to get on birth control, and the doctors were like, "Oh, there's this cyst on your ovary, and you can't get on any kind of birth control until you jump through all these hoops." And I had to go to like tons of doctor's appointments and this ultrasound and that one, and kept waiting, while I'm in a relationship with a guy who's raping me. Oh, did I mention that I've had quite a few partners who would rape me regularly? If I said no, oh well, it was gonna happen anyways. So I ended up pregnant with my youngest because I couldn't get on birth control, and so yeah, so 6 months after the twins were born, I got pregnant again, and then I have my youngest son who just turned 16 years old. So yeah, so right now currently I have a 21-year-old, two 17-year-olds, and a 16-year-old. Yeah, and then while I was pregnant with my 16-year-old, the abuse just escalated so much. Like, I would come home and find him like holding the twins by their feet upside down. Like, this was like right after birth too, because I was like, I need to go to the grocery store. Can you just watch the kids for like half an hour while I go to the grocery store, because it's just too much to try to do it all. And I came home and I found him holding the twins upside down by their feet. So then I just never left him alone with the kids anymore, trying to shower with all these kids around. My youngest son was Mr. Houdini, and he was going through so much stuff because he just like latched onto this guy and was like, "This is daddy, this is daddy." And then was just always like, "Where the hell is he?" Because I never knew where he was. He would just disappear. And so then that would really affect my oldest son. And so then he started Houdini escaping the house. I had to nail windows shut. I had like 6 locks on all the doors. It was so crazy. It was so crazy. And then, yeah, when I was pregnant with my youngest, I was 6 months pregnant. We moved into this new apartment, and I had asked him to help my brothers move things from the apartment that we were sharing with my mom to our little tiny apartment that we were going to be living in. And he didn't bother showing up. He showed up like after everybody moved everything, and he was drunk. And I remember being like, I cannot believe that you didn't bother even showing up. I was like, all I got was crap from my brothers the whole time about what a loser you are because you didn't bother showing up and helping. And plus, everybody knew at this point that he was a meth addict with an alcohol problem. And so uh, he ended up flipping out on me, running away, going and getting more drunk, coming home with more alcohol, blasting the music, rap music. I hate rap music, by the way. Blasting rap, coming in the bedroom. Oh no, I was taking a shower when he came back, and he attacked me and pushed, like, we had these plastic drawers in the bathroom because there was no cupboards for the towels. He pushed that into the shower, it hit my pregnant belly, and then I went and I put the mattress down, and because it was still standing up from moving, and I just lay down to go to sleep, and he had come back home again another time after getting more alcohol, and he was blasting rap music. I had just gotten the twins to go to sleep, so I went and I was like, please turn that down. And so he turned it up louder, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything because it's just going to make the situation even worse. And I remember I was just like crying, and he just kept coming in the room and like yelling at me and cussing me out and saying, I'm going to make you hit me. I'm going to make you hit me. And I was like, I've never hit anybody in my life. And he finally ended up waking the twins up. And so I walk to the kitchen and I'm making a bottle for them, and they're screaming. And he's like literally like let me use this hand, like this close to my ear. You could feel his lips as he's like, I don't even remember what he was saying to me. It was just horrible. I just remember it was nastiness just flowing from his mouth into my ear, like that close, and it just felt so aggressive and so overwhelming. And I remember I was like super disassociated. I'm like the pro of disassociating, and I had the bottle in my hand like this, and I just water at this point. It was literally warm water, okay? Because I just got done cleaning the bottle out, and I just flicked my wrist, boop, like that, and the water splashed into his face. You know, like, how aggressive was that? He freaked out on me, like freaked out, and ran off. Like, he like screamed at me, ran off to the other room, and then I was like at the end of making the bottles, so just like maybe 3 minutes later, and he came back. He picked up a vacuum cleaner that was in the kitchen area because we just moved in, and he picked it up and put the bottom, like he swung it at my head. It like brushed my hair as he was like swinging it at my head, and he didn't hit me. He swung it at me like that. Oh no. He did that immediately as soon as I splashed him. So he swung it at me, then he ran off, and then I was at the end of making the bottles, and then he came back into the kitchen, put me in a chokehold really quickly. Like, I did not know what was happening. He just came running into the kitchen. I dropped the bottles, and he had me lifted up off the ground in a chokehold. I couldn't breathe. I like literally could not breathe. I thought I was dying. And I remember thinking, I need to make sure he doesn't get the kids. He's about to kill me and the baby, and he's going to try to take the other kids, and I need to make sure that everybody knows he's the one that murdered me. So I started scratching his skin to get his DNA under my nails, and I was like biting him a little bit. I was like, I'm going to have his DNA all over me to make sure that everybody knows, hey, this guy is the one that killed me, okay? He put me down, and I remember calling my mom, and she's like, you need to call the cops. And I was like, well, you know what happened with my dad when you called the cops? Nothing, because that when he threatened to kill us, she called the cops, and he was basically taken away for the night and told to be separated from her. That's the extent of it, and then handed right back to us, and unsupervised visitations and years of being stalked. So I was like, I don't think that's gonna help. I was like, I really don't. I'm afraid to call the cops because I think that's gonna make the situation even worse. Okay. And then after that, we had a few months where he was trying to be better, but he really wasn't. And I told his aunt that she needed to take him, and because she was willing to let him sleep there, while he got his shit together and everything. Anyways, he ended up calling me one day and being like, I'm going to go to this. Anyway, different story. Ended up leaving, going and cheating on me, having it plastered all over social media, and then trying to deny it. And then she's calling me up telling me, he loves me, that's my boo, go fuck yourself. And I was like, okay, whatever, take him, please take him. And then I spent years being stalked by them, and getting pictures of her vagina, him eating her out. There's her 6-year-old son taking pictures of them in sexual positions being sent to me. Their tattoos. I had to get restraining orders. They wouldn't give me one against her. I don't know why. I mean, had enough proof to get one against him, but then they tried to give visitation rights to him too. And I had it arranged that it would be at his uncle's house, supervised. Thank God, thank God. And he didn't bother showing up to any of them, and ended up losing custody of the kids because he didn't do his drug test like he was supposed to. He showed up, he did the drug test like 3 weeks later or something, and I think it was positive still, and didn't bother showing up to any of the visitations. So the judge was like, okay, you get custody. Yeah, it was some crazy times. So I ended up raising 4 kids on my own. My mom ended up moving in with me, and helping me raise the kids and homeschooling them. And I took breaks from dating here and there. I'd go like a year or 2 or 6 months or whatever, not dating anyone. And then every time I would end up in a relationship, it would be another cycle of abuse. It would be some other type of abuse. I think that's my big thing, is that even to this day, I end up picking people who are damaged. It's like different abuse. Each person comes with their own set of things. It might not necessarily be like that. That was like crazy. The first 2 dads, my oldest son's dad and the father of my 3 youngest. But it's got their own sets of things, like just like completely emotionally unavailable or verbally abusive, things like that. People with alcohol problems, a lot of people with alcohol problems is what I've dated. Drug problems. And yeah, and I just keep pushing through. I keep on going. I've raised like literally 4 of the most wonderful human beings you can ever imagine, and so empathetic and so understanding and so much depth in them and so wildly intelligent, and I'm so incredibly proud of who they are, and I can't wait to continue to see them grow and just become these even more intelligent beings. I think that they have so much more resilience and so much more knowledge than I ever had at that age, like just so profound. And I'm so incredibly proud of them. So I don't regret anything that's happened to me in my life. Not from my dad, not from my grandma, not from my mother, not from my exes. I appreciate everything that I've been given in life because it's allowed me to become who I am right now. I feel that I am incredibly strong. And even if I'm in a situation where I'm with somebody who is incredibly toxic, I might struggle in certain aspects with that. But at the same time, I know how strong I am through it, and I know that I can rely on myself to be able to be okay. I know that I am love. I don't need love from anybody else. I have so much love to give. My children feel it overpouring to them. They are still so close to me, like throughout their teenage years. My 21-year-old still hugs me and holds my hand in public. Like just the amount of respect I have for my children, and the amount of love I have to give to this world, and the amount of love I have even for people who are hurt. And I think that has been my downfall, is that like I'm like, I understand, hey, you've been through a lot of stuff, and you're trying to get better or whatever. And so that's how I tend to end up giving too much of myself. But yeah, I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to make sure that I don't continue to put myself in situations where I am abused, and trying to make sure that my children are not in those positions either. And I would love to help other people who have been through similar things as me get out of them, and if not get out of them, like just become stronger people in them, to the point where maybe they do want to leave that situation, or just be able to help somebody who's been dealing with that pain, where they have super suicidal feelings, where they're super depressed because of it, like, oh, my life's always going to be crap, whatever. I'm here to grow with you. I'm growing still. I can help you grow. I have a lot of insight. I have a lot of stuff that I've been doing. I've been on a path of growth all my life, honestly, and I feel like the last few years I've been even more so in that. I've been reading Eckhart Tolle and watching a lot of videos. I can't, like I've been reading a lot more than Eckhart Tolle, but that's the only one my brain is clicking on right now. A lot of videos on self-development, becoming more conscious, becoming more aware of my body, because I've disassociated from my own body so much in my life that I struggle with feeling it. Getting more in tune with my intuition again, and really trusting myself, trusting that I am loved, trusting that I know what's right and wrong, trusting that that feeling in my stomach, like, hey, this seems off, and following it, like really, really trusting it again. I've noticed that I am very much more in tune with that in the last few years, and really, really figuring it out. Anyways, so that's like a super brief overview of my very traumatic life. There's so many more traumas that I could go into, so many more nuances and details, and really get into it. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Please, comment, message me, let me know what you'd like to hear more of. And I plan on making more videos. I've got a music festival I'm going to with some psytrance. And yeah, I'm gonna have my booth up. I make products. I make essential oil products, and epoxy resin and other things. Incense, all that kind of stuff, candles. So I'm trying to get myself where I don't have to work for somebody else. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I'm not made to work for other people. I'm made to work for myself. So something I'm really trying to get off the ground. So I've got that music festival. I'm going to love the music. Can't wait to be there. And can't wait to have my booth there and share it with the people. I feel like that's a really great community who would really appreciate some of the work and the artwork that I do and things like that. So I'm really excited about that. But until next time, hopefully I'll make a video pretty soon. Maybe shorter ones, but I just kind of wanted to give a quick overview of my life story, and I can tell you that there's a lot more. So I'd love to hear from you guys. All right, bye.